You think confidence makes you strong, but it only exposes how controllable you are. This lesson will remove the mask. If that unsettles you, stay. Chapter 1. The Confidence Illusion. You were taught that confidence is strength, that if you walk taller, speak louder, and believe harder, the world will reward you. That belief was not created to empower you. It was created to make you visible. Confidence, as society sells it, is a flare shot into the sky. It tells others where you are, what you want, what you fear losing. The confident man is easy to read. He announces his hunger. He displays his ambition. He leaks his insecurity through posture, tone, and reaction. Power does not move like that. Power does not advertise. Power does not explain itself. Power does not need applause to exist. Machiavelli understood this long before motivational culture turned confidence into a product. He saw that the man who appears certain is often the man begging to be followed. And the man who begs to be followed is already beneath someone. You mistake confidence for control because you confuse energy with position. But energy is not authority. Noise is not dominance. Visibility is not sovereignty. The world does not submit to confident men. It studies them, it maps them, it exploits their patterns. The truly powerful figures in every system are rarely the most confident in the room. They are the most unreadable. They let others project confidence, ego, and desire while they collect information. You were trained to believe confidence protects you. In reality, it exposes you. Every time you assert yourself emotionally, you reveal your leverage. Every time you defend yourself, you declare where you can be wounded. Every time you seek to be seen as strong, you confirm that strength is something you still need to prove. This is the illusion. Confidence is not power. Confidence is a signal that you are still negotiating your worth. Power begins when you no longer need to convince anyone of anything, when your presence no longer seeks validation, when your silence creates pressure, when your restraint becomes unsettling. This is where the lens must shift. Not from weak to confident, but from confident to sovereign, from visible to untraceable, from expressive to strategic. You were never meant to become confident. You were meant to become untouchable. Chapter 2. The Confidence Trap Mechanism. Confidence does not fail you by accident. It fails you by design. The psychological mechanism is simple. What you display becomes what others learn to control. Human beings are not driven by logic. They are driven by perception, threat, and opportunity. And confidence is interpreted not as power, but as availability. When you appear confident, you appear open. When you appear open, you invite testing. When you invite testing, you reveal limits. Predators do not fear confidence. They hunt it. They watch how quickly you defend, how loudly you explain, how emotionally you react. Every reaction becomes data. Every defense becomes a map. Confidence signals that your identity is still attached to approval. You want to be seen as strong, which means you still fear being seen as weak. That fear is leverage. Machiavelli understood that power never announces itself, it positions itself. Confidence, in contrast, announces, it performs. Chapter 3. The Three Masks of the Weak. Every hierarchy is populated by predictable creatures, not because they are stupid, but because they are unfinished. You will recognize them immediately once you stop projecting nobility onto human behavior. The first is the performer. He confuses confidence with noise. He speaks quickly. He smiles too often. He explains himself before anyone asks. He believes visibility is power. In reality, he is a flare in the dark, useful only because he reveals his position. The second is the plea bargainer. He believes loyalty will protect him, that honesty will be rewarded, that effort will be noticed. He trades obedience for the illusion of safety. He calls it morality. Predators call it access. The third is the mirror addict. He only knows who he is through reflection, through likes, through approval, through validation. Remove the mirror and he collapses, because he never built an identity, only a display. These three masks dominate modern men, not because they are evil, but because they are incomplete. Above them stand the observers. They do not perform. They do not plead. They do not mirror. They watch. They understand that behavior is language, that silence is camouflage, that restraint is threat. They let others expose themselves. They collect patterns. They move when outcomes are already decided. And above even them stand the architects. They do not study people individually. They study structures. They shape environments where the weak compete, the loud exhaust themselves, and the quiet rise unnoticed. Here is the brutal truth. You are not judged by what you feel. You are judged by the pattern you repeat. And patterns do not lie. If you recognize yourself in the performer, the plea bargainer, or the mirror addict, this is not condemnation, it is diagnosis. The mask you wear today determines the position you are allowed tomorrow, and until you remove the mask, you will never touch power. Chapter 4. The machinery that never stops. You want to believe the system is broken. It isn't. It is functioning exactly as designed. History proves this with mechanical precision. Empires did not fall because of cruelty. They rose because of structure. Rome did not dominate through kindness. It dominated through hierarchy, discipline, and selective mercy. Kings did not rule because they were loved. They ruled because they were necessary. Every civilization that survived understood one rule: power does not apologize, it organizes. The threat is not that predators exist. The threat is that the system rewards them. Look at every institution around you: corporations, governments, schools, media. They do not promote virtue. They promote utility. They do not protect the moral. They protect the effective. And you were trained to confuse these. You were taught that effort equals outcome, that fairness governs reward, that sincerity creates safety. None of that is true. Human nature has never changed. People follow confidence, not truth. They obey control, not morality. They submit to certainty, not kindness. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He didn't invent cruelty. He simply removed the illusion. He saw that men pretend to admire virtue, but instinctively obey power. This is why history repeats, because human wiring does. The quiet man is ignored. The compliant man is used. The visible man is exploited. The restrained man is feared. And fear, not love, builds distance. Distance builds leverage. Leverage builds survival. You are not living in a unique age. You are living in a refined one. The battlefield is quieter now. The weapons are social. The wounds are psychological. But the hierarchy remains. And if you do not understand it, you are not outside it. You are inside it, unarmed. This is the deeper threat, not that others are ruthless, but that you were trained to be readable. Your reactions are predictable. Your boundaries are negotiable. Your loyalty is visible. Your values are exploitable. You do not live in a world that hunts bodies anymore. It hunts patterns, and your pattern determines your fate. Every relationship you lose, every opportunity that passes you, every time someone steps ahead of you without asking, it isn't random, it is selection. The system does not ask if you are good, it asks if you are dangerous. If the answer is no, you are classified as usable. That is the threat. Not that you will be attacked, but that you will be slowly erased, ignored, circumvented, replaced. Not by stronger men, by colder ones, by men who do not need to be seen as kind, by men who understand restraint as weapon, by men who understand that silence creates gravity. History does not remember the pure, it remembers the positioned. And the system is not waiting for you to wake up, it is waiting for you to remain soft. Because softness keeps the machine running, and the machine never stops, not for morality, not for fairness, not for you. Chapter 5. Strategic withdrawal, strategic ascent. You were taught to move forward by pushing harder. Wrong. Power does not come from acceleration. It comes from positioning. Most men exhaust themselves inside battles that were never designed for them to win. They argue, they explain, they defend, they negotiate their own worth. That behavior signals availability. Availability signals disposability. The strategic shift is not about doing more, it is about becoming harder to access. Silence is not absence. Silence is compression. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding the structure that consumes you. You do not announce boundaries, you embody them. You do not demand respect, you remove access. You do not compete for attention, you become scarce inside it. Predators do not chase loud prey, they chase predictable prey, and predictability is emotional leakage. Every visible reaction teaches others how to move you. Every explanation gives them your operating manual. Every apology lowers your price. The strategic man does not disappear. He becomes unreadable. He allows others to speak first. He allows assumptions to surface. He allows pressure to reveal who is desperate. He does not interrupt momentum. He redirects it. Silence becomes gravity. People begin to orbit it, not because you demand it, but because uncertainty creates hierarchy. You think power is about asserting. It is about withholding. Information, emotion, intention, attachment. The less you leak, the less you can be controlled. You stop broadcasting values. You start testing environments. You stop trying to be understood. You start choosing who deserves access. You stop trying to look confident. You start behaving unavailable. not distant, selective. Because selection is sovereignty. This is not cruelty, this is economy. You cannot be sovereign while being accessible to everything. Strategic behavior is not loud, it is slow, it is quiet, it is surgical. You let others overplay, you let others expose hunger, you let others collapse under their need to be seen. And while they perform, you observe. Observation is ownership. You are not passive, you are delayed, and delay is a weapon. It creates asymmetry. They move, you choose, they react, you decide, they speak, you position. This is where the power begins to reverse, not because you dominate, but because you stop participating in weak dynamics. You remove yourself from emotional markets. You stop negotiating with validation. You stop needing closure. You stop needing agreement. And in that absence, something shifts. People feel the gap. They fill it with projection. Respect grows not from effort, but from resistance to consumption. The strategic response is not becoming cruel. It is becoming unbuyable, unrushed, unexplainable, unpredictable, not chaotic, controlled. You no longer chase outcomes. You shape conditions. And when conditions favor you, outcomes follow automatically. This is not about becoming colder to others. It is about becoming colder to manipulation. You still move, but now you move from leverage, from restraint, from placement. You are no longer inside the machine. You are learning how to stand beside it, and that is when the system begins to feel smaller. Chapter 6. Identity Execution. The final transformation is not an upgrade, it is an execution. You cannot become sovereign while protecting the version of yourself that was built to survive approval. That identity was designed for inclusion, not dominance, not independence, not power. It was trained to explain, to justify, to soften, to negotiate its own existence. That identity is useful to systems, but fatal to men, so it must die, not emotionally, structurally. You stop referring to who you were, you stop defending who you used to be, you stop honoring the promises made by a weaker architecture. Most men never cross this threshold because it feels like betrayal. But it is not betrayal, it is migration. The old identity wanted to be understood. The new identity wants to be uncontrollable. The old identity measured worth by reaction. The new identity measures worth by immunity. The old identity asked, "Am I enough?" The new identity asks, "Who dares test me?" This is where softness finally collapses. You stop seeking alignment. You stop seeking closure. You stop seeking permission to harden. You realize something brutal. Every version of you that required validation was engineered for submission, and every version of you that seeks peace without leverage is pre-trained to lose. So you let it go, not with anger, with indifference. You no longer introduce yourself as potential. You begin to exist as boundary. You no longer carry your past as explanation. You carry it as discarded scaffolding. Your memory becomes archive, not identity. Your emotions become data, not directives. Your relationships become filters, not attachments. You are not becoming empty. You are becoming unavailable to exploitation. This is the sovereign shift. You no longer ask how you are perceived. You ask how much access you allow. You no longer adapt to rooms. You decide whether rooms deserve you. You stop trying to appear powerful. You start removing everything that made you predictable. The old self wanted to belong. The new self wants to remain unowned. And in that detachment, something strange happens. Fear disappears. Not because danger is gone, but because dependency is gone. You realize that control does not come from domination. It comes from non-attachment to outcomes. You can walk away. You can remain silent. You can refuse engagement. You can withhold participation. And those four abilities terrify every system that depends on emotional compliance. You are no longer a variable. You are a constant. You are no longer responding to environments. You are shaping which environments get your presence. This is not arrogance. It is alignment with power. You did not become colder. You became sovereign. You did not lose humanity. You removed vulnerability to leverage. You did not become ruthless. You became ungovernable. This is the identity replacement, not louder, not crueler, but structurally ungraspable. You do not chase influence. You radiate refusal, and refusal creates gravity. The old self wanted to be chosen. The new self understands. Selection is power only when you are the one selecting. Everything before this was training. Everything after this is silence. A silence that does not beg. A silence that does not explain. A silence that no longer needs to be recognized because it already knows what it is. Chapter 7. Final Selection. This is where most men leave, not because they disagree, but because they recognize themselves. Up to this point, everything has felt sharp but tolerable. Now it becomes personal. Because this chapter does not offer strategy, it offers separation. You are forced to accept a quiet truth. Not everyone is meant to hold power. Not everyone is meant to see clearly. Not everyone survives sovereignty. Some men are designed for structure, some for obedience, some for comfort, and a very small number for independence. There is no morality in this, only distribution. Nature does not ask permission when it selects, neither does power. The systems you live inside depend on you remaining predictable, depend on you remaining emotional, depend on you remaining attached to approval, belonging, identity. They reward you with safety in exchange for silence. But once you see this trade, you can never unsee it. You either retreat back into the herd, or you accept isolation as the cost of clarity. There is no third path. Power is not loud. It does not recruit. It does not persuade. It waits. It waits to see who can endure without applause, who can remain unowned, who can watch without reacting, who can walk away without resentment. If you are still here, you already know which side you lean toward, not because you are better, but because you are no longer willing to be managed. This channel is not for growth, it is for filtration. Most will leave, a few will recognize themselves. If you stay, understand this. You are not subscribing for content. You are marking a psychological boundary, a refusal to be shaped by comfort, a refusal to be softened by approval, a refusal to remain explainable. This is Mind Forge, not a place for motivation, a place for selection. You are either inside it, or you are safer outside. There is no judgment, only consequence. And now you choose, not with words, with silence, with restraint, with what you no longer allow to own you. This is not an invitation, it is a line. And you already know which side you are standing on.